Hey guys, welcome to the Monday morning call. Hopefully you had a good weekend and you're ready to get going here. So the call is broken up into two pieces today, the pointer, which I'm going to talk about a little bit about rates of return, and then the second half will be on our three presentations and how we use them. Jeff talked about one of them last week, the sale. So here we go. If I can go. So let's talk about average rates of return. So what should we expect for the average stock market return going forward? So what would anybody think we should expect for the average stock market return going forward? And you're going to get all sorts of different numbers, and there's all sorts of different ways to predict that. So I'm going to show you one of the ways that's being predicted by two of the foremost experts on the stock market. So now this is historically how we've predicted stock market returns, which is historically. So Jeremy Siegel in Stocks for the Long Run, which most of us have heard, if not read, he went all the way back to the times of Louisiana Purchase and then look at what the stock market would have returned from that point going forward. And he came up with a 7% rate of return. That's what it had averaged from the Louisiana Purchase through, I believe it was 2000. So that's the way a lot of people will do it. They'll look back historically and how it's performed, and they'll choose all sorts of different time periods. So if we do that, 1926 to 2012, the S&P has averaged 6.7%, which is pretty close to that 7% of going all the way back to the Louisiana Purchase. So is this higher or lower than most people bat about for rates of return for the stock market, guys? Higher or lower? Yeah, it's a lot lower than what most people bat around. So you can even break this period, though, 1926 to 2012, into three separate and distinct periods. And that is from 1927 to 54, the market averaged 7%. And then from 55 to 60, it averaged 14%. But from 61 to 2010, it only averaged 5%. So are these pretty close to the same, or are they quite a bit different? Obviously, they're quite a bit different. So if you look at 50-year time period, so from 1950 to 1999, the market averaged 9.2%, which is, if you remember the 90s, everybody in the industry was throwing around 10% rates of return for the market, 10% rates of return for the market. No, well, they got slapped pretty good over the last, or the first decade of the millennium here, and now people at least have downgraded what they average. At least I hope they have. But even from 50 to 1999, it still wasn't 10. It was only 9.2% rate of return. But here's the funny thing: just shifting a little bit to the right. So from 62 to 2011, same 50 years. So 50 to 99 was 9.2, but shifting just 12 years to the right, from 62 to 2011, the average rate of return was 4.95% during that 50 years. So look at that, 9.2 to 4.95. That's almost half, just by shifting 12 years to the right. And guys, 50 years, I mean, isn't 50 years a lot of years to use for giving average rate of return? I mean, 50 years is a pretty good chunk of time. I mean, it's certainly longer than what most people retire. And that's a huge difference. From 50 to 99 was 9.2. From 62 to 2011 was 4.95. That's a huge difference. So we had better be really, really careful. I mean, well, here's what the lesson is, guys. What's the lesson? We better be really careful about predicting or telling people they're going to get high rates of return with the market. That may or may not be true, and we've seen that historically. So which of those is right, 9.2 or 4.95? Neither, because we can't predict the future. But here's the thing. If we use Robert Shiller's and Peter Bernstein's approach, both of these are highly respected market predictors. And they used both of them used a similar approach, which is using a 10-year inflation-adjusted average PE, or what they call a PE10. So using a 10-year inflation-adjusted average PE, they predict that, or that prediction, using that 10-year inflation-adjusted PE10, the next 20 years should average, what do you think, high or low? 5%. That's what it should average over the next 20 years. Now, how accurate is that? That's not something that most guys that manage money want to see. They want to think it's going to be a lot higher than that. So A PE is right there. It's the 10-year inflation-adjusted PE, so you can look that up online. So how accurate is this? Well, using PE10, for 50 years, 1950 to 1999, the PE10 was 9.4. So the PE10 for those 50 years was 9.4. And what did we say that the market returned during that 50-year time period? 9.2. So it was pretty darn close. And then remember, we shifted it 12 years to the right. For the 50 years ending 2011, so 1962 to 2011, the PE10 was 4.6. And what did we say the average rate of return for that 50-year period was? 4.95. So it's very predictive of what's going to happen going forward. And that PE10 right now is predicting that we should only be at a 5% rate of return for the next 20 years. So what's the lesson then? Because here's the thing. During those 50 years, either 50 years, 1950 to 1999 or 1962 to 2011, did the market perform this way? 4.95, 4.95, 4.95, 4.95. No. What did the market do? It went up and it went down. But when it went up, it went down quite a bit from 62 to 2011. So knowing that the markets are going to go up or down, and we're looking at probably, and actually Money Magazine, which I'll be showing you next week, actually predicted the next 3 years the average rate of return for the stock market will be 1%. And that was just in the latest Money Magazine edition. They're predicting the stock market will be at 1% for the next 3 years. So, and that's using a different, actually 3 different, well, similar. One of the things they use is PE, and then they use a couple of other things, but we'll talk about that next week. So, the lesson here is not that we should be in the market, shouldn't be in the market. The lesson is what? It's important that when the market goes up, we lock in those gains. And we have a tool that's available to us. What's the tool that we can use to lock in gains when the market goes up without fear of trying to guess the market? What do we use, guys? What's the tool we have? Exactly, indexed annuities. IULs and fixed index annuities. We can at least, because it's the only tool out there that will automatically, lock in gains for us. It's the only tool out there that will automatically buy low and sell high. So how does it automatically buy low and sell high? Well, because when the market goes up, we're in. So if the market has fallen, we don't have to wait to decide if the market's going to go up the next year or not. If it goes up, we're in. If it doesn't, we don't lose any money. So it automatically buys low, sells high. So going forward, for the next 20 years, being in an indexed product like an IUL or FIA is extremely important. Because do you think any advisor out there, any money manager was able to predict which years the market was going to go up and go down? We've talked about this a lot over the last 6 months. What do we find out? The guys that are in the top the guys who predict, Missy, can we
I'll post the proof with the call like I always do.
Okay, cool. Okay,
yep.
Thanks. So the article that talks about this will be posted with the replay of this article, with the replay of this tape. So, can we predict when the market's going to go up or go down? No. But we're pretty good about predicting the direction of the market over time, or the likely. These numbers right here show that just with the PE10, one simple predictive measure was pretty darn close to predicting what's going to happen over time. But we can't predict what the market's going to do tomorrow. We can't predict what the market's going to do next year. But we can predict pretty closely what it's going to do over periods of time. So because of that, we know that the market's going to go up and go down. It's extremely important that we're using tools that will lock in those gains for our clients. Because if you're going to ride the market up and then ride the market down, it's not doing your clients any good. And unfortunately, what do our clients do when the market goes down? They bail. So the index type strategies are awesome because the clients never bail out at the bottom. And here's the thing, guys. With as many times as they've been slapped in the past 14 years, are they bailing out earlier or later when things go to heck in a handbasket? Are they bailing out earlier or later when things go to heck in a handbasket? Earlier, yeah, that's right, Andy. they're bailing out earlier because, you know, once you've been burned, you're a little bit more skittish about getting burned again. So the only method we know that automatically locks in those gains is indexing. So that was my little, that's the first half of the call here. Now let's talk about the second half of the call, which is what are the 5Qs3 presentations, where it's the sale, and Jeff talked about that last week. Then we have the TRiiP, and we have the one-way or the yellow pad presentation. So what do they all have in common? Well, they all have in common this. We do not tell the clients they need to do it. They tell us. We never tell the clients they need to use our solution. The presentations are set up so that the clients tell us they want to do the solutions or they need to do the solutions. And the second thing is we cover the negatives, not the positives. And I ask this when people first come onto the system, I always ask them this question. If I put the average advisor in the room and I gave him 60 minutes to sell a product, so he had 60 minutes to sell a product, how many of that 60 minutes, guys, would they spend, would that average advisor spend talking about the great things of that product? If they got 60 minutes and only 60 minutes to sell that product, how many of those 60 minutes will they spend talking about how great their product is? 60, exactly right, Frank. I totally agree with that. 60 minutes. Now, that's not the way my presentations work. The way I present is I talk about the negatives, not the positives. So I go through the negatives that, hey, our return is not that, you know, it's not great. Hey, our liquidity is not that great. Hey, I'm not sure if now is the right time. Hey, I don't know about about moving your money now because you have surrender charges. So I go through and I talk and I spend all 60 minutes on the negatives. Why would I do that, guys? Why would I spend all 60 minutes on the negatives? See, we live in a bit different time. No surprises, exactly right, Jeannie. We live in a different times. People who were great salespeople 10 years ago are struggling today. I could name 5 of them right at the top of my head. Big producers who now struggle today. Why? Because people have unbelievable amounts of information available at their fingertips. And we can certainly sell something today, but when they leave, it's going to be unsold. But here's the funny thing. Even back in the 10, 15 years ago, I used negatives to sell, even when they didn't have all of these things at their fingertips. But the reason I use negative is because it adds credibility to what you're saying. It shows that you're looking at it as a balanced point of view. People know there's no perfect anything out there. They know everything has advantages and disadvantages. So you might as well go ahead and talk about the disadvantages. Now, when I talk about the disadvantages, here's how I talk about the disadvantages. I say, hey, the rate of return here isn't so great. But how does it work compared to what you currently have? So I do comparisons. If you think about it, guys, in the when we went to school, and again, I'm a big fan of the belief, of the psychological belief that we were imprinted in school with a lot of things, and one of those things was comparisons. We learn, or we make decisions based comparisons. We compare things side by side, and that goes all the way back to kindergarten. Which one is bigger, this one or this one? Which one has a smaller, this one or this one? I mean, that's been imprinted on us so that we make decisions based on comparisons. So if you look at all of my presentations, they're comparative, especially the TRiiP and the one-way presentation. They're very comparative. They're saying we could do this or we could do this, which is better. So when you do the negatives, I say, hey, we could. This isn't going to give you a great rate of return, but is it giving you a better rate of return than where you're currently at? Now, guys, what's the definition of a better rate of return? Does better rate of return mean a higher rate of return? Is a better rate of return necessarily a higher rate of return? Yeah, safe return, Mike. No, yeah, you're all getting it right. So better rate of return, especially for the people we work with, is they want the highest rate of return with the least amount of risk. So when the presentations go through the rates of return, they show them that, hey, the rates of return aren't great, but they're better than you currently have. Hey, the liquidity, it's not great, but it's better than you used to have, than you have right now. And I always say, a little better or a lot better? I mean, I ask that question maybe 15 times in these presentations. Little better or a lot better? And what do they say every single time? A lot better. So I go through all the negatives, but I have them realize that, hey, yeah, this thing he's recommending isn't the best thing in the world, but it's a heck of a lot better than what I'm at right now. So when they go home and somebody tries to tell them what they're doing is wrong, They'll say, what are you in? Well, I'm in whatever, they'll say, I'm in a mutual fund, or I'm in a bit. They'll say, well, you know what? It's a heck of a lot better than what you're doing. And they'll dig in their heels. They believe it in their gut. Because we cover the negatives over and over and over. So they realize that the negatives of our thing, they just realize that our negatives are a lot better than the negatives that they're currently in or the negatives that other things that are available out there. So that's the big change. And see, and the other thing about all of these presentations, guys, is the sale about products. Is the sale about products? No, Kevin, right. Is the for those of you who know about the TRiiP, is the TRiiP about products? No, what's the TRiiP about? It's about a journey down a jungle river. That's not about products. How about the one-way presentation? Do we ever mention a product there? Do we ever mention a product in the one-way presentation? We mentioned groups of products. We mentioned, hey, there's safe product, there's safe types of investments, there's growth type of investments, and there's hybrid investments. But do we mention a particular product? No. So why don't we want to mention a product, guys? Why do all these presentations not mention products? Why do we not want to mention products? That's exactly right, Kevin. Products are a commodity. They can take products wherever they want. And also, for selling products, we sound just like everybody else. Also, if you're selling products, they know that they're getting down to making a decision. Where if they're buying, it's a lot easier for them to buy a solution or a concept than it is to buy a product. And I would agree with you exactly right, Eric, that we're not telling, selling, preaching, and teaching. So none of them are products. They're solutions. So Jeff did an awesome job last week of talking about sale, which is our solution for income. So if somebody's looking for income, the sale software and sale presentation is the perfect presentation for them. Now TRiiP is for ugly surprises. What kind of things are there that are ugly surprises, guys? What are ugly surprises? Well, unfortunately, a lot of people have found out that an ugly surprise is that their home insurance doesn't cover the kind of losses we've been seeing in the weather has been throwing at us. Nursing home, yes, is absolutely a natural disaster. Absolutely, both of those are ugly surprises. A water main breaking in your front yard costs you $30,000, $40,000. A home in your neighborhood, a meth home in your neighborhood, is going to knock your home value down by how much? They've even found out that a large barking dog, a large aggressive barking dog, guess what that will drive your home value down by? A neighbor with a large barking aggressive dog, guess what that's going to knock your home value down by? $50,000. That's huge, guys. That's huge. So life is full of ugly surprises. I don't know how many of you remember this, but they've actually studied what's the likelihood we'll get hit with an ugly surprise, one ugly surprise in the next 20 years. It's almost a 80% chance of getting hit. Or I'm sorry, 80. It's a 67% chance. It's a 2/3 chance. 2 out of 3 people will get hit with an ugly surprise in the next 20 years. What else is it protected against? Medical costs, which is long-term care, etc. Inflation, and loss of Social Security income. So the TRiiP protects us against all of these things. Now, how do we use it? Well, one way we use it is if we run into a situation where all their money is locked up. So they've just moved all their money into fixed index annuities 6 months ago. Well, suitability says we can't move that, nor should we, because all the surrender charges, etc. So it's a way. Why can we use this if all the money's locked up, guys? Why can we use TRiiP if all the money's locked up? That's right, it's payments, Matt. So it's basically because we're just stripping income off of those things to protect against all those things we just talked about, all those ugly surprises. Now, should we tell them to do that? No. All we do is show them the TRiiP. And I tell you what, I have found very few times that people have been showed the TRiiP that they did not want the TRiiP. They couldn't always get it because, it is an underwritten product. But I don't know of any time, there has to have been a time, But I've never talked to a guy that showed the TRiiP where the person who saw the TRiiP didn't actually want the TRiiP, didn't want that policy. So if all their money's locked up because they just moved all of it 6 months ago, if all their money's locked up because it's all in rental real estate or all in REITs, if all their money's locked up because it's in qualified money and you don't want to move that qualified money out, now guys, and you don't want to move that money out, the actual one-way presentation will show you how you can get money moved out of IRAs into life insurance. But let's say you don't want to do that. This is an awesome way to move money out. So if they've got RMDs, etc., they don't know what to do with that money, the TRiiP is the perfect solution for that. So you can use IRA withdrawals, free 10% withdrawals. So it's a great way to access money that's locked up. And it's a great way to build relationships with other professionals. Here's what I mean by that. Accountants and property casualty agents don't like financial advisors, but they like life insurance salesmen. So CPAs and property casualty agents don't like financial advisors, but they like life insurance agents. Why? Why do they not like financial advisors, but they like life insurance agents? What are CPAs and property casualty agents worried about? Do they make their money by going out and getting new sales? Where does 90% of their income come from? Probably 95% of their income come from. Residuals, right, for the renewals. So property casualty agents and accountants don't want to lose their clients. It took them a lot of time and effort to build up their books of business. They don't want to lose it. So the reason they don't like financial advisors is they don't know what you're going to recommend to their clients. And if they move all their money, you might be a bonehead, move all their money into REITs. Or you might be a bonehead, move all their money into some sort of crazy investment where they lose their money. So they don't want to refer out to a financial advisor, but they will refer out to a life insurance salesman. Why? Why will they refer out to a life insurance salesman? What's the risk if somebody sells them life insurance? See, it's a known entity. The known risk is a certain amount of dollars for premium, and they get a certain death benefit. See, that's known. There's not a lot to. So the worst case scenarios, they spend a few $1,000s for life insurance, and they get a benefit for that. That's the worst case scenario. Best and worst case scenario is they spend a little bit of money for premium, and the worst is somebody dies, and the best is somebody dies because then the remaining spouse gets a huge life insurance payment. But it's a known entity. So property cash agents and CPAs love life insurance sales because they know that there's a limited downside and there's a known upside. So if you're building relationships with CPAs or with property cash agents, a lot of times it's better to show them the TRiiP as a possible way to tap into their book because it's a known entity. There's no unknowns there. So you can also use TRiiP for that. So any questions on that, guys? Okay. So then the one-way presentation. What is the one-way presentation designed for, guys? What's the one-way designed for? See, I'm getting some people typing in products, and that's what I wanted you to do. The one-way is not designed for a product. The one-way is designed so that they realize they're not happy with their current situation. See, most people, now the advisorectomy is to get them to decide that they are not happy with their current advisor, right? That's what the advisorectomy is. But is the advisorectomy designed to get them to think that they're not happy with their current investments? Is that what it's designed to do? No, it's not. The advisorectomy is, as Jeff so eloquently puts it, he says it's just an excuse to have 21 conversations with them all about their current advisor. It's not about the investments. So the biggest, the one-way presentation is to get them because they've already moved their money to us, or at least in their mind they've already left their current advisor. They know they can't work with their current advisor, but now we have to get them to decide they don't like their current situation with their investment. They don't like where their current investments are, and that's what the one-way does. So how many product solutions fit the one-way, guys? How many product solutions, I mean, how many products could you fit or would the one-way address? I'll help you out here. A gazillion. So it was designed for a couple of particular products. It was designed for a MEC index annuity life, but you can use that presentation to sell a win-win-win. You can use that presentation to sell a fixed index annuity. You can use that presentation to sell an IUL. You can use that presentation to sell anything because it's not designed to sell a product. It's to get them to realize, holy cow, I want all those things that the one-way is talking about, and I don't have them right now. I want all the protections that the one-way has that I don't have right now. I want all the returns that the one-way has that I don't have right now. I want all the liquidity that the one-way has that I don't have right now. So it's not about selling a product. It's about getting them to want to change from their current investments. Does that make sense to everybody? But it's for a chunk, a lump sum. So the TRiiP is designed to have an annual premium. The one-way is designed to get them to move big chunks of money. Does that make sense to everybody? Because the biggest problem we have with our clients is inertia. The biggest problem we have with our clients is inertia. They think, right now, I'm doing okay right now, so why make any changes? And we can't allow them to be thinking that way. I mean, the advisorectomy is to get them to decide, you know, well, my guy's done a pretty good job for me. It gets them to decide, I don't care if he's done a good job for me or not, he's been taking advantage of me. See, it removes their current investments and the rates of return and all of that. I mean, I made $1 million a year with this system in 1998 and 99. And what was the market doing in 98, 99, guys? What was the market doing in 98, 99? How much was it going? It was soaring by 30%. I was making 30% a year. Now, think of it, guys. Why would anybody want to leave their current advisor when they're making 30% a year? And that's where we have a lot of problem with guys who sell based on return. Oh, you know, market's going, their investment just went down the last 2 weeks, so I'm going to get these people for sure. No! You live by the sword, you die by the sword. See, our advisorectomy has nothing to do with rates of return. It has to do with their advisor. But then once they're here, we have to get them to actually, to make a living, we have to get them to decide, okay, I've left my advisor, now do I want to leave my current financial situation? Well, we've got the sale, we've got the TRiiP, and we have the one-way to do that, to get them to say, I'm not satisfied with what my current portfolio is doing. We use those as for leverage. So we don't want to, we want to make selling the product easier. And if you go just for the product, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. You're going to have to put forth a lot of effort to sell the product. But if you use these presentations, the sale, the one-way, or the TRiiP, it does all the work for you. It makes the effort almost effortless. So that's what those are designed for. So I would highly recommend, if you have not watched the TRiiP video for a while, or if you've not watched the one-way for a while, go back and just refresh your memory with what those things do and how they do it. And the nice thing is, you know, on Fridays we've been working on getting people to tell us things and giving them little pats in the back. You'll see, I mean, just watching those videos are also an excellent way to just strengthen those tools of getting people to tell you why they want to move their money and giving them little verbal pats on the back. So now, do we ever want to show people these presentations before the 21-point checklist? That's a great question. Do we ever want to show people these presentations before they do the 21-point checklist? Where's the one-way presentation? It's under the solution meeting, isn't it, Missy?
Yep, it's under the implementation meeting, and then it's underneath the, it just says Part 2, One-Way Selling Presentation, yellow pad.
So guys, and I tell you straight out too, between the TRiiP I said this about the TRiiP, that I've never heard of somebody presenting that to a client, the client didn't want it. Same thing goes for the one-way presentation. I've never heard anybody saying that they presented it to a client and the client says, I don't want it. Now, I've heard them say, I need to think about it, I need to process this, but I've yet to hear somebody say, nah, I don't want that thing. And we've sold a ton using the one-way presentation. Now, I asked the question, should we ever show these things without going through the 21-point checklist? And a lot of people are saying no, and that's exactly right, except for one exception. I'm going to go back here. This one right here where I'm flashing it. See that? Building relationships with other professionals. Again, some of them might be afraid of the 21-point checklist because we're talking about their investments and they're afraid we're going to move all their investments. So that would be the only exception, is we're trying to get a property cash agent or a CPA to allow us access to their current clients. I still think I would personally still go with the 21-point checklist, but I would emphasize that the solution I'm going to present is the TRiiP. The solution I'm going to present is a life insurance solution. So does that make sense? But otherwise, no. All these presentations, all you guys have said no, are right. All these presentations are designed, the one-way and the TRiiP and the sale are all designed for after the 21-point checklist. Because we have to these solutions are not going to get people to move. You have to get rid of their advisor first. Then these solutions will get them to move their money. Does that make sense to everybody? So I decided not to go through these presentations because some of you know them like by heart and some of you don't. So the best way to learn I didn't want to bore the people who already know them by going through the presentation. So just go to the video, please, sometime this week. Watch the TRiiP and watch the one-way all the way through once, just to get a reminder for what those things do and the power that they have. And I've got guys that have gone back to their book and made a ton of money with the one-way presentation with the TRiiP. Because and here's the funny thing, guys. They went back to they told me up front, I've already presented life insurance to my whole client base. I've presented life insurance to my whole client base, so it's really senseless to go back. And I twisted their arms to go back and present the one-way and the TRiiP with their clients. And again, you're not going to present both. You're going to choose one or the other depending on the client's situation. The TRiiP is designed for just annual premiums. The one-way is designed to move a big chunk of money. So you wouldn't present both, but you present one to your current clients. And over and over and over, they told me, these people told me no, not 6 months ago to life insurance, and yet they bought the one-way. These people told me no a year ago, absolutely no to life insurance, and they bought the TRiiP. So why, guys, would clients who did not want any part of life insurance want it after they saw the TRiiP or the one-way presentation? Why? I got an answer here. Emotions, other benefits. They want solutions. All you guys are right. Emotion. It's an emotion. Most of those are emotional presentations. They're done via stories. They're done via Socratic selling. What one thing is not in any of those presentations that everybody that sells life insurance tries to sell it with? So the average advisor tries to sell life insurance with a certain tool, and that tool is absent in all of these presentations. What tool is that, guys? So illustrations, Kevin, exactly. Illustrations. There's not an illustration in any of these presentations. Illustrations do not sell. I know you think that the illustration sells, but the numbers are right there. How can they not see the numbers? The numbers work. I hear that all the time. The numbers work. Guys, numbers don't sell. Stories sell. And here's the thing. When you're selling something, can you tell them why it works and why they need it? No. Who has to tell you? They do. They have to tell you, Kevin, exactly right. They have to tell you why it works and why they need to move their money. So here's the thing. What do you think the likelihood that you can lay out an illustration and the client's going to be able to explain that to you? When you lay out that illustration, guess what happens to their eyes? Guess what happens to their brain? It glazes over. But here's the funny thing. When you show them the one-way or you show them the TRiiP, I mean, for example, the TRiiP, when we take that trip through the jungle river. It's hilarious. How many times for you guys that have done the trip, when you're doing the trip, do the people give you the exact answer you're looking for? It's almost like you have a script and they have the exact same script for their part. How many that have done a trip have found that the clients, and the one way too, that the clients will say the exact thing they're supposed to say at the next part of the script? They say it over and over and over. That means that it's very easy for them to follow along. It's very easy for them to buy into. It's very easy for them to understand both the trip and the one-way because they do all the explaining. So at the end, it's not you telling them they need to do it. It's them telling themselves they need to do it. And that's where they get excited and say, I need this thing. And then after they decide they want it, then you'll let them know that it's life insurance. But at that point, they don't care if it's life insurance or not. They just want the thing that does that thing. Does that make sense to everybody? Super. So that's all I had to cover today. Any questions? Any comments? So please go back and watch both the TRiiP and the one-way presentation videos. But remember, with the idea that we're not going to use that until after the 21-point checklist. Super. Thanks, guys. Have a good week, and we'll talk to you on Friday.
One quick question, Mike. I just saw pop up.
Please.
It says, do I need to run all clients through 21-point checklist? I'm guessing is what that is.
Well, yeah.
First.
Here's the thing. I recommend that you run all clients through the 21-point checklist or make the offer to all clients through the 21-point checklist. And here's why. First of all, if they ever show up at a regular event and your close is about the 21-point checklist, you're going to be sweating bullets if there's somebody in the audience that you haven't offered that 21-point checklist to. So you should go through the 21-point checklist for that reason with your clients. Second reason, it's the right thing to do, guys. For those of you that have done a 21-point checklist on yourself and you know that you should, if you haven't yet, how many things are you missing? Essential things, important things. So you know your clients are missing these things. It's your job as their financial advisor to make sure they have all of these things that we're talking about in the 20-point checklist. So yes, you should do it for that reason. Third reason is this. They're used to you coming back with a product sale. Hey, have we thought about this? Have we thought about this? So doing the 21-point checklist works the same on your clients as it does on prospects. It allows them to reevaluate you as not just as somebody who's selling them products, but a reevaluate is, wow, this guy is just like a funeral director. Wow, this guy is just like a tax professional. Wow, this guy is just like a doctor. This guy is just like an attorney. This guy is just like, because we remember, they view us as all these different professionals as we go through the 21-point checklist. So by the time you get to the solution, they're looking at you in a whole different light. So remember we talked about these using leverage. It just makes it that much easier to sell your current clients one of those things if you go through the 21-point checklist first. So it's going to prevent you problems from them being at an event if you do the 21-point checklist first. It's the right thing to do for your clients. And the third reason is you'll shake all sorts of money from the tree that you didn't even know exist, and making these solutions that much more amenable to them, that much more exciting for them, because they know you're not recommending it just because you're selling products. They know you're recommending it just as one more thing that you're doing for them. I don't know if that answers the question or not, but yes, I would do the 21-point checklist first, then I would do the product presentation. Awesome. Anything else, Missy?
Nope, that was just the only other question I saw pop up.
Super. Thanks, guys. Have a good rest of the week. Talk to you Friday.